a dip in your hip, a glide in your stride. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe, with shows throughout the week. Everything you want, everything you could need. From the paranormal to the supernatural, from the spiritual to the unknown, from emotions to comedy. You can find us at Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and so much more. This is Rift Nation Network, the RNN. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
Sensitive/offensive content disclaimer. Please note that this podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Oh my God. Hello, everybody. I got to shut off the background music because, welcome to Becon in the Dark. And yes, I dyed my hair again. Woo! Love it. Hey, you never know what you're going to get from me, so you got to stop expecting normal. So, welcome to Becon in the Dark. I am Susan, and we have
Marcy
down there. So, and again, guys, I always say this. I'm going to say it again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to the Rift Nation Network. Oh, my God. Today's show, there was like an incident, and this happens a lot where I live because I live in a really large apartment complex building. I mean, hundreds of people actually live in this one unit. And it's like when you go downstairs and out. I know, isn't it awesome? I love my hair.
I love your hair too, Susan.
Yep. Howie's like, whoa, you got to stop expecting normal out of me. So, but you go downstairs, and I've noticed a lot lately that nobody is communicating correctly. It's either they find stuff offensive, or they'll take something that was said simple and they get offended by it, or they laugh it off, or it's just nobody seems to be communicating correctly. And it's not that it's correct or incorrect, it's just we've lost communication somewhere along the way. Do you agree?
Well, it's gotten into the whole tablets. It's gotten into, we don't know tone of voice. We don't know facial expressions.
Yep.
We don't know anything that you have to learn to read the cues from,
Yep.
and
Agree.
I mean, I was reading books, I don't know, 15 years ago, the communication between men and women. Men are from Mars, women are from
Women
Venus.
for Venus. I remember that one.
And, and I read recently, like, and I flashed on the different people I've dealt with. They said anger, when people are angry, there's like unexpressed, they don't know where to put the emotions.
Yes.
And so they'll come off
Yes.
angry because they don't. And I grew up that way. Like, I said that my mom would coach me and he'd say hi. And I remember doing an experiment. I went to a group thing and it was like, hi, you know, and that was like a trained defensive energy. And
Yeah.
I had to learn to like smile and say hi because I never knew when I was going to be attacked, or it's a subconscious, fight or flight
Yeah.
energy that goes on.
I agree. Now, Michelle, welcome, Michelle, and hello, Ed. Yeah, I didn't do most of the sharing out today. I was kind of really busy. It's a very busy day for me. I found out something last minute, so I'm trying to watch that. And then I'm trying to get on here, and Marcy's like, I'll be back. So I said, okay, we'll just wing this. But Michelle says most listen to reply or respond,
Right.
not to understand. Like I was always taught, and I taught my kids the same thing. Okay, like, and I really feel very strongly about this. When you're raising your children, you need to teach them how to communicate. So when people are in that moment of anger, right? It's what it is they're not going to communicate correctly. So I taught my kids, okay, when you need to vent, tell me I'm venting. You will not get in trouble for swearing, for saying something you're not supposed to. I want you to vent it out. But when you're done, you're going to sit and we're going to communicate about the true feelings of it after you've gotten it done. Because I did find that trying to communicate in the heat of the moment was never correct for them.
Well,
They,
and they'll remember that. I called my daughter one thing. She's
yeah,
been carrying on these grudges for years. And I'm like,
right.
I don't know how many times I apologize. It's basically called emotional intelligence.
Mm,
And that's where a lot of businesses that, like, I was talking to somebody at the casino, and she works with insurance, and she's introverted, and she goes, well, I went to a class where they were teaching us as far as how you approach, and I said it's called emotional intelligence,
right.
and people don't know how to do that. And more businesses are more successful when you communicate those things. Like you and I have great emotional intelligence. That's why people are watching our show instead of like barking at us.
But people like us, I'm an empath.
Right.
So when we're here, we're good. We can help, we can communicate, we can understand. Take an empath, throw them in the public and see what happens.
Well, again, it's a
It's,
learned behavior as far
yeah,
as what to
especially,
do.
yeah, especially when
Like
they first
there's
start.
there's when I was talking to Tracy at Baldini's, and she went to this class, and there's Christine, who's a waitress, and she's got like a little Wiccan necklace. And I
Right.
go, see, Tracy, I had talked to Christine. I like your necklace. You start off like you compliment somebody, and but a lot of people don't know that,
Mm,
and that gets them to remember what's going on. And I love this line that I read recently where it's like, when we're in a different frequency, we will hear white noise from the person. Or I flashed on different classes where my brain wasn't resonating with that person. And now I know the cues, but you have to learn the cues as to the interaction or what not to say, what to say, watching the facial expressions. There's also the when you, well, I forgot what it's called, but it's like when you look up to a question and people when you ask them a question, they look up. It's like they visually see it. When you ask them a question and they look to the ears, they visually hear it. Neurolinguistics. And then when you ask them a question, they look down, they're feeling the question. So if you read these cues as to where they're going from, as to an audio person might miscommunicate with the visual person because they're like, I can't hear you. Or the visual person might give them something, but that won't connect.
Exactly. Like what I'm doing right now. It may appear to other people I'm not listening, that I'm just ignoring. But what I'm actually doing is sharing the show out. But to some that watch to see if I am looking at you, people might look at that and say, well, she's not even paying attention. She's not interested.
Right.
And what happens for individuals that are like empathic, we'll feel somebody's emotions, and automatically when you're at the beginning of it, you take it as it's coming towards you, like it's for you, but it's not. A lot of times it's how people feel about themselves or situations or things, it's like I've always said. And then we have this generational gap. Let's talk kids. Like, half the time when my youngest son was talking to me, I had no idea what he was saying. I was like, dude, can you please talk English to me? And he goes, yeah, or I am in his language. And I'm like, yeah, my English, because I have no idea. Because nowadays we get different generations have our different lingos, and it's like down here it's like a rap gangster type thing. It's like, what are you trying to say? And it's very difficult with the different generations as far as communication for us to actually understand each other or want to understand. Like I said, me, it's like, dude, English, regular English, because I couldn't understand half the stuff he was talking about. And he would get frustrated. Oh, I'm talking English. No, you're not. Like, because they'll throw our regular language, and then they turn around and they throw like other terms in it. And to someone of my age, you know, almost 60, really close, but hey, we misunderstand what they're trying to say, and that's what happens. We have this misunderstanding, which is miscommunication. So it's trying to figure out how to bridge the gap of the generational differences or even the country differences.
Well, it's male, female.
Yeah.
Like I read the book The Men from Mars and the communication where they did studies, and so um, when I was reading between the communication between men and women, it's like men go from the outside. What's wrong? Why are you doing this? I want to fix this. And then women come from the inside and they're like, I don't want to be fixed. I just want to be heard. And so there's a miscommunication as far as the way that men talk. And men are always looking at one upmanship. And I love this because they'll come up with all kinds of information we don't care about, you know. But it's like that's in their world. The
Right.
more information that they have, whether it's sense of humor or knowledge, or they won't make a mistake because that will show that they're one down. So they're always looking at one upmanship. And when you understand these cues as to why are you giving me this information when I don't care, you know, but
Yeah.
that's what they're taught.
I feel that as far as like the male female type thing, I do feel that males have this, they have to solve the problem.
The
And
outside, yeah,
right. And women, again, communication, I'm putting it in a different way, even though she just spoke it, because we don't know who's not going to get it. So we got
right.
to put it in a couple different ways. So women just want to, sometimes we just need to vent. We don't, like she said, we don't want our issue solved. We want to vent. You have like people that say hello or hi, y'all, and it comes out
Right.
y'all when they meant to say you all. But it's really depends. And then as far as England is concerned, I heard this on a joke podcast, so nobody take me seriously, but that they speak the correct English. Well, technically they kind of do, because we just kind of jumble everything up together. Like we don't say the car, we say car. We don't say directional, we say blinker. Like over here, it's like put your freaking blinker on. I say directional, but mostly everybody else calls it a blinker because it blinks. So this causes, even though they're little things and they're kind of funny, it just causes all of these misconstrued conceptions. Like when somebody is speaking, what they mean or what they're saying might not necessarily be the intent behind it. Some people could speak like slightly different, like me and my son. I'm using that as a thing. I could say something in a certain way and mean it from the heart to let him know what's going down, and he'll take it as wherever. It's because of the communicational. That's
Well,
the generation
and
gap.
there's also accents. I was listening
Yeah,
to Alice Cooper, and he was talking about Stevie Nicks and her song "The Edge of 17,"
right.
and it actually, I forgot whose wife it was, but it's the age of 17, but it turned out to be sounded like the edge of 17.
Hmm.
So slight accents,
Yes,
we miscommunicate. So it doesn't matter what
exactly.
country we're in, it doesn't matter what state we're in, it doesn't matter whatever it is. And if you divide like the United States, there's like 17 different countries
Oh,
because
yeah,
they all have different traditions, they all have different
exactly.
accents, they all have different ways, and you go in, it's like, what are you talking about?
Now, you
Yeah,
guys out there, what is your issue with communicating? Do you have a communication issue with generations? Is it kids, grandkids? Does it have something to do with people just misunderstanding what it is that you're trying to say or what you're trying to do? Because that, as far as me, I find that people do misunderstand my intentions, because I'm kind of like a get up and go type person when it comes to certain things like the business, the network, and it's like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go.
right.
Some people, as far as communication in that aspect, might find it I'm being pushy. I'm not. It's just the way that I work. And then sometimes it's like I think because I'm used to multitasking. I don't know how to just do one thing at a time. Literally, I've always got two projects going, sometimes three, all at the same time, because that's the way that I work. That's the way that I function. And not everybody functions like that. Misunderstanding for sure, says Michelle. Definitely. There's a lot of individuals that kind of misunderstand things that are happening or going on. I agree with
Well,
that. Yeah.
one of the things, and I was bringing this up to Susan a couple of weeks ago about sound and hear how we hear things.
Right.
But she wants to get her knowledge, which is fine. But one of the things that intrigued me about it is like when we're traumatized, we will hear things differently. It's like the
Hmm.
chemical in the brain. So you may think that you're speaking clearly, but if they're traumatized or
Yes.
whatever it is, the filtering of whatever it is that's going on. And I think that part of what went on with my daughter and I, where we were my son was bowling, she didn't want to bowl. She was hanging out over at the other lady's house, and my son made a strike, and I go, you don't get it, and then she went into the bathroom and she goes, you told me to get out, and so
Yeah, exactly.
you know
Exactly.
And a few things like when I did talk to her, I guess we're neutral, but it's like, how are you being responsible? And you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And I had to rewrite her saying, this is what I did,
Right.
to clarify my end of the story. What she chooses to hear it, I have to just let that go because they're going to filter whatever you're going to say or hear.
Ah, see, this one's from Michelle here. Michelle says, I sometimes come across as rude. I'm just speaking what I think and not sugarcoating it. I don't
Right.
intend to be rude. And that happens. And I don't feel that there's anything wrong with that. For instance, again, I'm going to use my building because there's so many people here. I go outside and I'm just smoking a cigarette. And all of a sudden, somebody goes to sit down and a fight breaks out. I'm not going to get in the middle of the fight. I'm just going to get up and say, I don't do negativity and walk away. Certain people are going to say, wow, she really doesn't care. And I'm saying to me, what I'm saying is no, I'm respecting myself and I choose not to get in the middle of it. It has nothing to do with it. I just don't want to get in the middle of it because me, myself, will not deal with negativity. So, communication, as far as like body language or the way that we act and react, has to do with who we are as an individual. Now, maybe, and again, I don't know Michelle Caps that well, but maybe it's because, and again, some individuals, I'm watching it from a distance. She's watching the fight from a distance. I just get up and walk. It was happening right here on the side of me. I'm like, yeah, I'm all set with that. So, we all have our things that we've been through. I don't do drama. I'm not into the drama aspect of things. I choose to move forward, respect myself, and help people as much as I can. Now, some of the things I say, people are like, whatever. It's like it is what it is. We're not going to be able to assist everybody. And sometimes the way that we communicate might seem like, yeah, I know everything. Yeah, no, we don't. We're just giving you our experiences of what we had. But again, that's still communication. We have lost the ability to be able to communicate with each other. I mean, what happened to pen pals or writing letters or instead of texting? Geez, we used to pass notes in class. Do you remember that? That's
Yeah.
how we used to. I gotta tell a friend something, and then you rip it up and you pass the note. That's how we used to talk. Wherever a bike was, that's where your friends were. I mean, it was. I think we had it easier than some other people. But in a building this size, again, I'm just using this, in a building this size, there are so many people. We have
Hey,
yeah,
we're
there
talking
are,
about communication.
yeah. So there's so many different individuals or people here who are going to react differently because of their experiences. And for some reason, we have forgotten that. I think us as people have forgotten that not everybody is going to react the same way. I mean, you could say, "Hey, sup," or you could say, "Peace," like I do. When I leave downstairs, I just go, "Peace." People might say, "Oh my God, she doesn't want to talk to me. She's so stuck up." And then other people might say, "Yeah, she's cool. She's a hippie." And others might go, "Man, that chick is nuts." And then somebody else might go, "Shit, did you see what she did to her hair now?" But see, it's all just from going, "Peace," and that's it. So we interpret things based on our own experiences.
I watch the eyes. The
Mm,
eyes could go from 0 to psychotic within a split second. And I think I've told you a story that I work with mentally challenged people as a
right.
direct support, and the one guy was 6'3" and violent. He was
Damn, that's
never
tall.
what?
That's tall.
Well, and he was big. And
Ah,
it was so funny. The one that guy that couldn't talk, which I knew he could understand us,
right.
he was never violent toward him, but he was violent toward the other guy.
Right.
And There was one time one of the other staff members was going off, and me and Kevin were watching TV, and he would flip the channels, and she's like, "You're not supposed to do that."
Right.
And he's watching me, and he's watching her. He could have flipped in any second, and he
Exactly.
has been violent on anything. There's even times I'm trapped in the laundry room. It's like, Kevin, can you get me this? I would throw in potato chips. I call it feeding the beast. You
Right.
know, here, it's 4 o'clock, but even with the people that are mentally challenged, there are different ways to communicate,
Exactly.
and as far as they're reading the different things that are going on that are happening. So there's subtle cues no matter where we are or what's going on. They're reading it themselves as
Right.
far as what's going on. I think I'm not sure if I told the story. I just started working at this place. They wanted me to take the one that was violent shopping, the other one that couldn't talk, that grabs things shopping, and they're like,
Right.
"Oh, state rules." I'm like, "Really?" You know. But I ended up taking the one that he was violent on. I turned around. I was doing the grocery store, and the one that was 6'3" had his teeth in the cheeks of the other one.
Oh boy.
So I'm trying to balance emptying the garbage, the groceries, and the other guy's got his teeth in the other one, and this lady starts yelling at me at the parking lot. And I'm like, "Oh, I work with disabled." I'm going, "You need to shut up because it's going to aggravate the guy even more."
Exactly.
And he's like, and I'm trying to call the company. The company. That's why I had to quit that one. Luckily, right before COVID, but butt out. You know, you're making things worse. You say you know these things. If you know these things, then you know not to aggravate the guy even more, who's biting the cheek on. With these people need that drama, or they need to feel like they're part of it, or whatever it is that's going on. And sometimes staying quiet doesn't help because you're in the middle of all this chaos,
Right.
and you got to figure out, how am I going to navigate all this to get it back into a normal. Eventually you let go of the guy, but
Right.
it was just, people just, they think they know things, and they have to have one
It's yeah,
upmanship.
it's definitely it's a tough situation. And that's why I feel that everybody will react differently to the
Right.
same thing. It's like that old tale that they used to do back when we were in school. They would do what is known as a round. When you start with a story and then you pass it, pass it, pass it,
Oh
pass
yeah.
it. By the time it actually reaches the original person, the totally,
It's all,
totally
yeah,
different
it's called
story.
telephone also. That was another thing it was called,
Yeah.
because the way we hear things differently.
Right.
And so I will reiterate, I'm like, okay, so when I'm working, I will repeat whatever it is to make sure whatever I heard
Right.
is right, because we can't assume those things.
Exactly. It's like not all women are the same and not all men are the same. Just like not it's all like generation, like this is Gen X, this is Gen Z, this is Gen Y, this is Gen, whatever. I don't know. That's not it. It's we are all, even within our own categories, there are so many different aspects. Like my man. I mean, literally, I mean, right off, I'm so used to saying venting time or my kids doing venting time. I'll say, okay, I need to vent. And I'll call him right up. I need to vent. He doesn't try to solve the issue. He doesn't try to do anything. He just listens. And I love that about him. So,
Right.
but it's just something that I started training my kids to. Now let's go back. Why did I do that? Was I, me, myself, I'm using I, not you guys, was I at one point misunderstood? So therefore, I wanted to clarify that I was just venting to release so I could calm down. Or did I just kind of go into this teach, teach, teach mode? So, but I wanted to clarify that I wasn't misunderstood. And that's
Well,
what it was. When I say I'm venting, I'm not yelling at you, I'm venting. Because you know how some people talk with the hands like this, it's like, well, what are
I
you
do that.
doing
That's
type
so
thing,
funny.
and then others, when they talk, they're very loud, but they're not yelling. It's just who you are. But if you go take that, now you're going into cell phones, right? Cell phones. And say if somebody's used to yelling to another individual because they're deaf, they're putting it all in capital letters now, okay? So the whole thing's in capital. The person on the other end saying, why is this one yelling at me? How do you know they're yelling? Maybe the cap thing got stuck. You got to remember, our generation, we didn't grow up with this electronic stuff. We had the best of both worlds.
With my son, when I was going through a lot of anger with my daughter because he was communicating with, and I still was releasing stuff, he goes, Mom, right. you're getting too wound up. It's like, okay, I need to step back, because we repeat things, and it's like, okay, I'm going back to my happy place. Yes, I'm venting, Yes, I'm wounding it too much. So now I need to, because we get caught up in that wire or that loop.
Exactly.
Of that whole thing, and we don't know how to discharge from it. That goes on.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
These people are like, shut
up. Yeah, Michelle too. She has to retreat because she's either multitasking or her face reads are uninterested, and that's what it is. Sometimes it's like I will get extremely focused on something. I multitask, but for some reason my focus just goes. Somebody could be having a conversation with me, and I'm not ignoring them. I'm not relating to them. It's just it has to do with me. My focus will just go, and then they'll say, what? I'll say, what? What'd you say? And it's like I'm not ignoring them. It's just part of who I am. I get this like ridiculous focus. It's like you get up, you go into the kitchen, you have no idea what the hell you went in the kitchen for. So you go and you sit back down, and then you realize what you remembered. So you get up, you do it again. So it's all of these things, the way that we communicate. And with us, it was different. It was easier because we didn't have all this technology. But we didn't, as far as like communication, and people will call it, what do they call it now? Oh, fact checker.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. It was okay back in the day to joke around, but now you can't, because the fact checker thinks that I'm trying to state a fact.
I have a friend of mine that works for the FBI, and I'll do stuff, and I'll write stuff, and she's like, "Stop it!" Go look it up. And I'm like, if people want to take it, they can take it. If not,
it's like we shouldn't have to state, okay, this is my opinion. If you are offended by my opinion, please go away. It's just the way it was. We didn't do that back then. That's not what we did. It's just we have this thought or this instinct or this thing that we're trying to release. Back in the day, we released it by writing it down on a pen and paper because we didn't have this. So now we're releasing it this way, or releasing this way, because we have all these things we didn't have back then. So it's not about fact. I would have to say, honestly, in my interpretation, then you interpret it your way, I feel it's fact based on my experience.
Right.
So therefore, you would have a different fact based on your experiences.
That's the filtering. How
exactly.
much they can understand, how much they can hear. I'm supposed to do a tone. I've been hearing this the last 30 seconds, So I don't know if people need to release all this stuff, or the communications, or whatever it is going on. But I guess we get to a certain surface, and then all of a sudden the tones, I guess, help pop or release whatever it is that needs to be let out. scream. So somebody released something that was misunderstood, and I used to, I don't know how much I speak really loudly now, but I always had a voice that carried. And I was reading this, like, when you want to be heard. Somebody write something.
Yeah, I was trying to read what it is, and I think it's anybody that's trying to message about something, please send it over to the email. Don't post this stuff on somebody's live feed. So yeah, I'm all set. But thanks. I appreciate that. All right, now, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was just reading.
No, I saw.
Yeah,
I again, I was watching the cues, and I was watching what was on
yeah.
the thing, and I'm like, something needs to be said or read or
Yeah, just
discussed.
literally, communication. There's a certain way to communicate. Something like this should be sent to an email. Perfect opportunity right here. Communication. You don't need to jump on a live when somebody's trying to do something and try to get them to read the thing. That's the incorrect way. Maybe it's this generation's way, but it's kind of incorrect method to do it in the terms of either a business or things like that. Again, that's all a part of communication. Let's see. Share. I already read that one. So it has to do with the way that we communicate. And we're not just talking verbal, we're also talking written words, the way that people try to communicate or jump over one another all the time. I mean, what happened to assisting one another? What happened to, helping your fellow man? I mean, I remember back in the day where if the neighbor needed something done, like a babysitter last minute, I would go over and I'd babysit. It's not my problem. We used to help each other. But now I find a lot of us don't have that, or a lot of us have been maybe taken advantage of so much that we're afraid to put that out there.
Well, 7% of communication is verbal, and that's what I've
Right.
said before. Eye contact, tone of
Right.
voice, and people have to learn to do that. The book that I read, the Working with Emotional Intelligence, the guy that started TGIF, he found out that people weren't being treated right, and he
Right.
ended up starting the Thank God It's Friday um, restaurant.
Right.
And it was funny. One of the things I used to do was mystery shopping. I would take the kids and I would look the worst that I could, you know, to see how I was treated, and then
Ah.
you write it up, because is it worth it for these people to talk, or are we being ignored, or are they not getting anything out of this whole thing that goes on?
Yeah. In
But
sociology, I think they call that social experiments.
right, and
Yeah.
it's. I remember I was working at three different Kmart's because I was working at the shoes and we
Right.
didn't work at Kmart. And one of the big superstores, I had a vision of being closed down. I remember, like, um, a lot of women, like I've said before, the women would go pick berries and they would ostracize the one woman, you
Right.
know. And so this one woman just was ignoring me completely because she worked at Kmart. It's like a power trip where I read Mean Girls all grown up about that they will ostracize, or they'll say, "Oh, what a nice dress," when actually they're putting you down, but you
Right.
can't say anything because it makes it look like, oh, they're complimenting you or they're not. And
And that's the biggest issue. That really is. I mean, I'll go in somewhere and I see somebody and it's like, "Oh my god, that's a beautiful shawl." They don't know, even if I'm saying it as a compliment, if
defense.
if they're supposed to take it as offensive or not. I mean, when did, and I think I asked this question on Howie show, when did society become so sensitive? Why are we as a nation don't know the difference between a compliment or not? That what literally so much has changed.
Well, and it's like when I was trying to write to my daughter, and I apologize. I don't know how many times, being a human, being a mom, being whatever's going on, she holds on these grudges. And so I said, well, let's go to coffee. What do you want to go for coffee for? You know? And then she got into this. Well, how are you being responsible? So it's like this whole therapy mentality.
Yeah.
And then I said, this is what I did for you. She's like, thank you. And I never heard from her again. So
Right.
I took it as like, I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to ask her anymore. You know, you're in your world. You don't want me to fit in your world. And I've just had to let that go.
Exactly.
Because,
Now that just brought up another point. Thank you. Here's another
okay,
side of communication. Okay. All right. This one hasn't called this one. Okay. So this one says, well, this one hasn't called me. So you get this no communication because neither one is reaching out.
oh,
So what we have is
Betsy,
my sister. See, and again, it's to me, it's respectful. We'll take me and my sisters. I'm the oldest, yes, in the girls, but I have one sister, the middle sister. She works nonstop. I will not call her on the phone. I'll message her, which she doesn't get that many of, because I don't want to interrupt her because she does work a lot of hours. So if she's home, she's resting. I get that. Then we have the baby sister who will just pick up the phone and go, "What you doing?" And my other said, "I'm trying to work, Mary. Is there something wrong?" "No, I just wanted to call and see how you're doing." But see, I can't do that because I find that disturbing her at work. So it's not that I'm ignoring my sister. When I'm there and I see her, I say hi because she runs the kitchen and Market Basket. So I will say hi to her every time I'm there. And as you know, if you ever need me, call me. I don't call you because I don't know what you're always working. So we have two different types. The one that'll say, "Okay, I'll wait." When she has some time, she'll call, we'll go visit, do my thing. And then you have the one that goes, "Hey, I'm here. Here's me. Come see me." So it's the two different types of the different types of communication, if you can understand that, even though I repeated myself. I'm like that too. You're like which side? Morals, respecting humanity, lacking in society today. So are you the one that'll wait for the communication, or are you the one that'll just pick up the phone no matter what they're doing? "Hey, what's happening? Yeah? Oh, I'm sorry to hear you're busy. So let me tell you this story." You know? So I mean, it really is too funny. And then you'll have the ones that'll say, "You'll wait." Exactly, me too. Then you'll have the ones that say, "Well, you don't call me. You never call me. You don't like me." No, you work. I don't know when you leave because even though you're scheduled for this, you run the place and you're always there. So that's just an example, even though that's not what it is. So communication. So that's why, as far as communication, when it comes to something like that, I will just say, "You work a lot of hours, so I'll message you. And when you get a chance, you can read them and reply, you know, and stuff like that. If you need me, call me. I would be happy to help." That type of situation. I will just say it outright. This way they know they're not being ignored. So, yeah.
yeah, Dr. Brene Brown, uh, one of her books, it's like falling down, getting up. She was talking about how like our brain can only handle three different the hero, the villain, and I forgot the other one. But it's like when there's something wrong, our brain goes as being the villain. Or they'll put it as it's like, oh, they're not paying attention to me. They don't like me. They don't whatever it is going on. Where the
Right.
other person, because our brain has to fill in the gap as to what's wrong.
Exactly.
And so it's like again that reality of what's been going on. So I try to clarify as much as possible how people choose to respond to me.
Right.
You know, that's up to them. And then I call it going on the fence. I'll watch, you know, are we going to go this way? Are we going to go
Yeah.
this way? Are we going to do this the next time? So now I'm off the fence. I'm on the next direction. So if
Right.
you can sit there and pause and watch what was going on, then we might be able to figure it out or clarify to the person where they may not feel like we're taking them personally.
I do understand that. I understand that to a point. I think Mary is a very outgoing person, and I do like that about her, but that's not my personality. My personality is I will wait. I'll send a message and I'll wait for a reply because I don't I just I know what it's like to have let's see, I went to school, college,
Right.
and I raised 5 kids. So I know what it's like to be busy. So I think because that's how I was, I understand it's okay to wait. Then on the other hand, the baby sister doesn't have any kids. She just had a dog. She's never had kids. So she's goes like this all the time because
Or no boundaries.
right, she didn't experience what I did. So I think it's if we try to understand, okay, this person's, and it's very hard to do when we're like communicating or talking to other individuals. It's just taking that time or that step back, as you said, to observe and just to wait. We
They,
don't
they
always
should
have to, yo, where's the answer? I sent this message 30 seconds ago. Answer me.
it's like they were saying it's really important to pause. And
Right.
I reflect back into times like with my daughter, I got, I just called her a B, and, but it was all this anger because she reminded me of my sister and the whole thing on that. But it was like that moment of, and they said that when you're angry, that's when the truth comes out, or when you're drunk, the truth comes out. But if we can step back and pause
Right.
and let that brain settle, where the filtering or the hearing or whatever it is
Exactly.
that's going on, you can apologize, you can be accountable, but it's up to them to decide if they're going to accept it, if they're
All
going to keep on doing that.
exactly. And this is the thing, as far as like parents or people that have raised children, whether it's parents, grandparents, uncles, guess what, guys? We're not perfect. It's like
Right.
this this parenthood thing or uncle thing, aunt thing, grandparent thing, it didn't come with a set of instructions. So if we're not doing it exactly the way that you want it, maybe you should, I don't know, let us know what you want, because we were raised differently in our time. I mean, our father said, go change the channel. You got up and changed it. You adjusted the little antenna. I mean, you switched the knob on the channel. You got tangled up in a cord on the phone. So we had different things of it. And we are not really the generation of constant like text and messaging. We're not used to that. We are
Well,
more used to the phone and talking on the phones.
Harris and I went and saw Inside Out 2.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah. And was I talking to you? Was I talking to the group? I can't.
Yeah, you were
Yeah, okay.
talking in here about
Okay.
Inside Out too.
Yeah. And it's now up to 1 billion
Yeah.
because it talks about emotions, and it talks
Yeah,
about, and
because
a
he
lot of
was
us,
processing the show with you. It was either when you
oh,
went to
yeah,
go
he
see it.
came in. And he
Yes.
was, yeah,
Yes, he was here.
because,
They're processing it. And I like that. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
right.
So in other words, certain like shows or movies will bring up emotions. And rather than having the emotions overwhelm her son comes in and starts talking to help him process what he was feeling. And I thought that was pretty freaking cool, by the way.
Right. And my son has been brought up with psychics, healers,
Right.
and so it's our normal conversation
Right.
as far as what's going on. And even like when he was
Exactly.
talking to my daughter, I had to step back when I didn't have a job, I didn't have a car, and
Right.
support him on what he was going through. And and then my friend that's a psychologist, I go, she's not your sister. You don't go for coffee every couple of months and for 10 minutes. You
Right.
know, you never been to her house. She goes, well, you shouldn't have said that. And he ended up processing himself. He didn't want anything to do with her anymore
Yeah.
because you learn, do I want to engage in this? Do I not want to engage in this?
Right.
Because she was trying to separate us, and I guess get him on her side. I don't know what her trip is, but I don't even know if I could communicate with her if I did talk to her.
Yeah. So
we're in two different worlds, literally.
exactly. So your son processed the information, and he
Right.
was right. He wasn't, and again, communication. So again, he has really good communication skills because he wasn't like yelling or upset, or he was literally thinking, processing, and having a true conversation. And that's the one thing we don't get that much. A
Well,
lot
it's
of
a
us
learned
don't
behavior.
have true conversations.
And love is a learn. You'll see he'll come in and he'll be
Right.
quiet
Yeah.
instead of like being obnoxious or whatever it is
Right.
that's going on. It'll be like a 2 minute conversation. He'll go do
Right.
whatever he's doing, and you know. But it is a learned behavior, and if people can learn the neurolinguistics, watch people's eyes when you ask them a question. Respond to the audio, the ears, the visual,
Right.
the eyes, or the
Unless
kinesthetic
you're
grasp.
legally blind in one eye.
But they'll
Then,
hear.
yeah, see, someone like me, I'm legally blind in one eye. So even though right now you're a blur. So if
Right,
people were trying to read my eyes, you can't read anything by my eyes because I have one eye that's legal.
right,
I'm legally blind. So it's difficult. And some people will have hearing issues, or what my
right,
mother liked to call selective hearing.
right.
They
But
only
then
hear what they want to hear.
when you're on disability, your other senses will overcompensate.
Right.
So you will feel the energy
Tone of
screaming if
voice.
you
Tone
can't
of
see them.
voice. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you'll find different ways to express or communicate.
Exactly.
Whatever it is that's going on.
Exactly. Tone of voice. That's a good one. Michelle says tone of voice.
Oh yeah,
Exactly. Because I can literally, and I do take more of the tone of voice, and I think that's because of my eyesight issue.
right. You're
And
compensating.
the empathic issue, I will listen to my own instincts. But if somebody says, hey, or if somebody says, hi, or hey, that's a little rough to me. That's too
Right.
much emotion. Or, hey, you're like, what? So it's all a part of that. But you're going to take that situation and say if the individual was drinking or had too much to drink, and they go, hi, but they mean it in a silly way, and
Right.
that's the issue. That is the very large issue. We got about 8 minutes left, girl. We've been talking about communication and talking to
Well, I'm
communication.
hoping, is this helping everybody to understand the cues? You
Yeah,
know, as far because my mom and my sister would read fictions. I would read books of knowledge.
right.
And so
I read them all.
well,
I just like
if there's a
books.
good book that I read, then sometimes people borrow it and then I never get it back. You
Yeah,
know, that it's like, oh, it went somewhere. You know,
yeah,
but it's just you've got to make those decisions on those different people you have tried to communicate with, and are they responding back, or are they being accountable, or are
exactly.
they like, let's work this out, you
Right,
know because a lot of people, they don't, they would rather avoid you than
exactly. And
talk to you as far as what's going on.
I think one of the biggest things is we need to, again, I think we talked about this subject before, as far as our self-confidence, our self, who we are. We need to have that strong sense of self to not take the way somebody says something or the body language. Sometimes people will be aggressive when they're nervous and they don't need it. Or sometimes if they start to feel too much emotion, they'll snap because they don't want to feel it, even though they're feeling it. So there's so many different ways of things. It's just, if we know who we are, okay, as people, as individuals, as self, us, it's easier for us to interpret the communication that's coming into us. And we don't get that misunderstanding of either the tone, the sound, or the body language. because it's like that individual that just got in the car and all of a sudden is pissed off and swearing at everybody and get out of my way. It's like they get angry over things, and maybe they had a bad day. I don't know, but
Again,
it's
like the
like
anger.
whatever.
If you
Exactly.
like when I read about the anger and I flash back on different jobs and different things, the anger is that people don't know how to filter because behind the anger is the frustration, sadness, guilt,
Exactly.
shame. And, and then if they don't know how to filter that, it comes out as angry.
Right.
And sometimes we can step back and approach them when they're more calmed down,
Right.
or, approach from a different direction that goes on.
Exactly.
But again, it's choice, what they choose, how they want to, and their cognitive dissonances of
Yep.
how their belief system, it's like it affects their soul. So they're going to create whatever they need to protect whatever their reality is.
Exactly.
And you've got
Exactly.
to look at that. And that's why I tell people that's their reality. Don't take it personally. And the more we get self confident, the less we get affected by other people that's going on.
Bingo. Bingo.
I'm gonna hit another tone because it feels like something needs to be released. Again, I was feeling somebody's lower chakra screaming, and that's the unexpressed emotions.
Right.
you know. And when I work on people, it's like that white noise energy. I will clear it out of people, and it's because you're putting the gas and the brake at the same time. I thought I was always talking, communicating with people, but it's like, what do you want that for? Because I was trained that way. But I thought I was being
Exactly.
nice. And so, you think that you're talking one way, but your whole energy or reactions, because we react is from the past, it,
Exactly.
when we respond,
Exactly.
it's like, well, what's wrong? Yeah, what do you want that for? You know? And so it's like,
Because I really like coffee. No.
so, if you understand those energies, then you learn to communicate in a different way.
Exactly. And that's what it is. It's communicating in a different way because you're comfortable with yourself and who you are. In other words, you're respecting yourself, and you are taking self first. You have to love and like who you are as an individual. So if you don't have that, it's more difficult for you to communicate in a manner that's going to be receptive to others. Just the way to put it. All
Well,
right,
and
guys,
also,
guess what? I got to announce this real quick, and then we'll let Marcy talk. So let's see. Half an hour from now at 8:30, sponsor of the Rift Nation Network, SS Crystal and Crafts, which is, guess what? Me, will be live in a half an hour. So like, subscribe, share, sponsor, be sponsoring, and of course, it'll be done in a different manner, in a different way. I've kind of set it up a different way to make it educational as well as sales. I wanted to add a little something different for this, something new that I'm trying on the riff. So with the blessings of Mr. Odell, thank you. And Miss Marcy, what else do you have to say about communication before we end this
well,
and I run out to smoke?
because I read this as like, work on communicating to be understood, and a lot of times people are like, they're communicating, but if they're not understood, it's just,
Exactly.
it's downhill.
Yeah, it really is. I agree with that. Why would you want to continue to try to communicate in a pleasant manner if nobody listens and nobody ever
Yeah, that
understands what you're trying to
friction, that
say?
pushing, and the
Exactly.
defensiveness and all that other energy that's going on.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with that. I really agree with that. So I hope you guys did enjoy the show. I'll see everybody in a half an hour. Half an hour, half an hour, half an hour. All right, I gotta find the ending, and peace. See you guys in a half hour.